Hello everyone. Welcome to the Out of the Box Developer. My name is Yogo, and I help professional web developers to design better architecture so they can start leading their team and influence on important decisions. And yeah, today to help our audience or anyone that is struggling with being a specialist developer or polyglot developer, we started this discussion actually on the last session, and we started in a much broader point of view about being generalist or specialist. And today we want to go a little bit further and try to discuss a little bit about how how many languages actually we have to learn on our day-to-day work, or actually do we have to learn many languages to do our work to become a developer and senior developer or to help on our day-to-day? What do you think? If you have any opinion already, please share here, paste here on the chat, on the comments. We'll be happy to discuss together. But to help me with this discussion, I want to call my good friend here, our specialist on AI and machine learning. Hey, Manny, how are you?
Hey, Hugo, I'm good. How are you? Long time no speak.
Yes, thanks. I'm fine also. And great, we have this opportunity to discuss a little bit about programming languages, something that we really love to. I think every programmer have some language that they love and they like to talk about and compare with other languages, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, our field, at least since the time I have known it, it has always been about what programming languages do you use? What do you know? Which one do you like? And are you a Java developer? Are you a C++ developer? Are you an assembly coder? Are you a high level programmer, high level language programmer? And, things like that. It has never been about other kinds or any other kinds of technical, technology. In our space, technology is very broad, wide, and it's composed of many different components, not just programming languages, right? But we
Yes.
always talk about programming languages when we meet our fellow developers in the community or anywhere else.
Yeah, it's kind of the tool that define us actually, right? It's our main tool that people. Oh, you are a Java developer. You are a C# developer. Anything else? But yeah, there's a lot of other things that we do. But let's try to bring this discussion also together here today.
Sure.
And I also want to call my good friend here, Pedro Cavalero. Hey, Pedro.
Hey Yogo, hey Manny. Thank
Hey,
you, thanks,
Pedro.
thanks for letting me join here to this fantastic discussion. We always like to discuss language, right? Sometimes we discuss so much, like having sides and so on. But so let let me try. Let us try to not take sides today.
Yeah, let's try to not. Yeah, actually it's good to
Oh
be
no,
to
yeah,
take
I
side
will
and
take
be polemic here also. That's also great great way to show your passion, right? But well,
Yeah, absolutely.
since you also, Pedro, you are an architect with a lot of experience here, and probably you have seen a lot of languages in your career. So I think it's a good idea to think about start this discussion about do you think in the development how important it is to know different languages, to know many languages, to do I don't know, to do our
Mhm.
work, to our day to day.
Yeah, this is a good question. When I started, uh, I started mostly with Java, right? So I started Java, it was 2000. 2000 Java was a very new language at that time. We had there was all that discussions between Java and C++. Oh, Java is slow, all that stuff at that time. Today Java is not so okay. But, But at that time, we had all these discussions and say, oh, Java is a new language that is much more easy to learn than C++, for example. Today, now I can see, oh, Java is too complicated and we have to learn whatever other language, like Python or any anything because the Java is too complicated. So you see, it is interesting to see when the time pass, we see how different we see the language. Even the same language, we see completely different after some time, uh, uh, and that is much pretty interesting. When I start when in early 2000s, when we talk about do we need to use JavaScript to do any web development? And people say, no, if you're using JavaScript, you are doing it wrong. You remember that time? So now, if we say today that for people who are starting now, say, oh, really? Did we had that time when JavaScript was not a thing? Yeah, we have. So I think we have lots of uh, uh, different ways to see the language when each time we pass. And of course, not only the time. Like today, we have some needs in the language, but it not only the time, but the domain. Some domains needs can use different types of language that are much more adjusted to that domain or to that problem or to that tool. So, well, I think we have lots to discuss here because if we say, "Oh, what's the best language?"
As a good architect, you reply as depends.
But of course, I have the one that I like most. I will tell that later.
Great. And before we go further with the discussion, I just want to call our mentor here that have been helping us with the channel. Hey, Bruno, can you show up?
There
Hey,
he
hello,
is.
Hello.
Hello.
everyone. So good to have you to be here with you.
Thanks, Bruno.
Hey,
Thanks for
Bruno.
joining.
All right. So
It'll be a
I'm here trying to promote on Twitter so we can to tell more people. Right. So how's everything? Hey, Manny, how you doing?
Hey, Bruno. Good. How are you? Good to see you.
Doing
Yeah,
good.
long
Doing
time
good.
no see. With you, I can say long time no see. At least with Pedro and Hugo, I see them a little bit more often.
Yeah, that's okay. So
well.
I hear DevVox UK is just happened, right? So were you there?
Uh, Happen. It's going to happen.
Oh, it's going to happen. Didn't just happen last week, or I got it wrong?
Well, usually DevOps UK happens early May, so there might have been some pre-events
Okay.
leading up to DevOps UK. But yeah, from what I see here, it's from between 10th of May to the 12th of May 2023. So
Oh,
that's
okay.
what the website says. So there might be some community events that might be happening before that.
Yeah, no. So I
Um,
got it wrong. I had said Stefan talking about DevVox UK, but maybe I got it that wrong. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
so it's
All
yeah,
right.
it's between 10th and 12th of May. Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask again in the next in a month from now.
Well, we have one more session, which is 14 days from now, and that'll be the
Yes.
right time to ask about DevOps because then we'll be even nearing to the events.
Right. Okay. All
Yeah,
right. So
for those who don't know, DevOps is one of the biggest events, development events in the Europe. It occurs in many countries in the Europe, and it's a great place actually to have contact with many different languages if you are if you are looking after, right? Let me share the event here. So
Yeah,
Bruno,
I
yeah,
just
go
shared
ahead.
the schedule to the event, so you can all see what's going
Good.
to happen in the 3 weeks. It looks jam packed all the way till 9 at night, 8 in the morning to 9 at night for 3 days in a row.
Okay, cool.
Great. So Bruno, you just arrived here. We just starting this discussion about being specialists or polyglot developers. When we talk about language, right? I think that's a discussion that we hear a lot. That many developers that is worried if they should be investing all their time on one language, or they should be looking for many languages to be more, I don't know, to they expect to be more flexible or more adaptable to the market needs and so on. So do you have any thought about that you can share with us and help in this in this discussion?
Okay, so just tweeted. Done.
Oh, great.
All right. So look, I think that's lots of people say, yes, you have to learn multiple languages. There's discussion, oh, you have to learn a language a year and you have to be proficient of lots of different languages and all that. And, I think there's a truth to that, right? I think that, the more we learn a language, the more languages we learn, the easier it is to learn new languages, right? And also the better we understand our own language, right? Because, once you understand different programming language, different concepts, right? Then it's easier for you to either apply those concepts to different things, or it's easier for you to understand those concepts into your current language. So yeah, I think it's important for developers to have this experience, right? Or learn different programming languages. But at the same time, right? I don't really think that, yes, you have to work with all kinds of different languages, and then you have to be, to have all kinds of deep projects on all things. I think you have to have an experience, right? The fact that, for example, many spoken languages, for example, right? You might be able to read different things in different languages, and it doesn't mean that you necessarily have to work on companies that talk different languages. You can be like mostly English, and then you can read things in French and in Portuguese and other things, right? So I think that this whole, we need to go very deep in all languages. It's hard, right? Because you simply don't have the time. You might not, and sometimes you might be, because you haven't gone very deep in a language yet, you might just, everything you're gonna do is harder to do there, right? I remember when I started doing something with Python, right? It's like, man, everything I wanted to do was so hard, not because of the language itself, because I didn't know the environment, right? Installing a new like a new API I need to use, right? And I didn't know how to do that. And there's a like just trying to compile a program for someone else. There was an error. I had no idea what to do with that, right? So it's so much harder, right? So I think that applying the maybe the Pareto rule, right? So get the 20% that allows you to read it, allows you to talk about it, allows you to understand how it works, right? Not necessarily. That's the way I think, at least, right? And I think that some languages going to be easier for you because they're the same paradigm than your main language. Some languages are going to be completely crazy because they have a completely different paradigm. But I think that really, really, really what makes things worse and harder is that different languages have different environments and different different ways to work, different ways to set up your environment. And that, man, sometimes that can be so frustrating, right? When we're doing Tools Cloud, for example, Tools Cloud, we had this particular situation that, basically, as a company, what we did was we got several of the top, projects for you to do, for you to develop software, right? So, things like Git and Redmine as an issue tracker, and Jenkins as a continuous integration tool. So each one of them were developed in a different language, right? So so we had a testing tool made in PHP. Jenkins was done in Java, and then sorry.
The Redmine is Rails.
Redmine is Ruby on Rails, right? And then we had GitLab, no, not GitLab, but was the other one that was the other Gits.
SVN, if you were using SVN.
SVN was in C, but Git was in C. But there was a Git Blitz. Git Blitz was our Git repository manager, and that was written in Java. So each one of them was different language. So we had to know all that, right? We had to work on different things. We had to work on different languages. And man, I'll tell you what, sometimes it was a pain, right? You're very used to work with Java. So for example, working with Jenkins for me was like very easy. I could just get the whole thing up and running very fast. But then every time I was going to work on Redmine, it's like, what am I missing here? What's the library? Why is this not working? It's like, so it gets, and it's not the problem of the open source project. The problem of, it's my problem because I had to be proficient with all those things, right? So, and I think that once you get into that kind of thing, then it gets so hard and so frustrating, right? And I remember, for example, me and Hugo, we started doing this software to migrate from Slack to Discord, right? And so and I started doing it in Java because that's very easy for me. So I can't just do in Java. There's a library in Java that I can use and everything. So then Hugo said, "Yeah, man, I can help you with what? But you know what? I prefer to do in JavaScript." So then he went off and he did this whole thing in JavaScript, right? So I wanted to help, and I was like, "How do I do that?" Right? So I had to resort to just kind of, when he had some issue on solving a problem, I would look at the code and suggest, okay, so I think that that's the only thing I could do because I couldn't even run the thing on my own computer because I didn't have the proficiency to do that, right? So so that's what I think, right? So if you know a little bit and at least you're able to navigate, then it's a lot easier for you to learn, it's a lot easier for you to experiment, right? So now, one interesting thing that I saw the other day, I can get here the tweets, right? There's a maybe I'm not even gonna find it. I think I retweet that, but there was a girl that I haven't ever seen her before, but she said, "Hey, I'm an evangelist of Java, right? So I decided to learn Java, right?" So she said, people said that learning Java is hard because you have to do all those things, right? So the first thing she said, yes, you have to build an environment and download the JVM. And then she said, no, you can just go to this website and just run everything on the browser. And that is awesome. I think that today we have so many solutions that you can just run things in the browser, right? There's all kinds of places where you can just kind of, either they have a container where you have everything set up, or you can just run things in the browser. And I think that is an awesome opportunity for all of us to just experiment with language, right? Because then you don't have to do any of that. You don't have to worry all that. You just get an environment that it's running, it's working, and you can just experiment with that. So I would totally like that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, Bruno has given us a versatile and elaborate answer to that question, and I think he's covered all the points that we would have normally discussed in the 45 minutes. So now Hugo is trying to think.
We can go deeper in each one of those topics, right?
Yes, that's the spirit. That's the spirit. And Hugo is now thinking, what's the next question I can ask that Bruno hasn't really answered? Because I could see on Hugo's face, oh, that was that second question I was going to ask him. And now goes the third question. And the fourth and the fifth, he's answered them all. Where is he reading all these questions from? Well, Hugo, Bruno has already done these sessions before, so he's got the script. We are just trying to repeat and learn from Bruno's experiences. No, but yes, if I want to add to it, I was going to say that, and this is, I think I've said this in quite a few sessions in the past, and Bruno, I think we have already had these similar sessions a couple of years ago as well. So I keep telling people that today we are no longer in a mono language or mono tech environment, right? Mm-hmm. Like previously we used to only use IBM clones with running Windows or DOS on it, right? That was it. Everywhere you went, you saw that. But it's only since like more than last 10, 15 years, maybe 20 years, we are actually seeing, maybe 15 years and less. We are seeing all kinds of combinations of computers out there, right? You've got MacBooks, you've got Windows machine, you've got Linux machines, and then you've got all the other variances of operating systems in the Linux world. And then you have all kinds of handheld devices as well. So you have Android devices as well. In addition to that, on top of that, our development environments, as Bruno was nicely elaborating, is made up of so many different things. You have things that run in the browser, the things that run on the desktop, right? And also in a work environment, you have solutions that are written in so many different things, right? They're written in JavaScript, you name it, Java, and the whole list of so. And any application that you now deploy, if you have a CI/CD pipeline running, it's not just everything is Java or everything is one language, right? You've got many things written in many things, right? You've got certain things that are written in Angular. There are certain things that are written using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and then you have the backend that is supported by Java, right? Java has got its forte, and then some things are written in Java or another compiled language for command line tools because they need to be solid. They cannot be like so. You're touching various types of technologies in your day-to-day life, all the way from starting writing your code, committing to all the way that commit getting compiled and getting deployed in production, right? You got to touch Terraform, you got to touch Ansible, the whole CI/CD pipeline. So you cannot be a mono language, a single language specialist and survive, right? You are constantly touching code and the boundaries where other languages also coincide. So that's what I would be saying as our uh, you know that's our environment now and how our mindset needs to change accordingly. So we cannot be a single language developer and not know what the next language is. So that's kind of what I would be. That's what kind of what I would be alluding to answer that question. Can you be just a single language or mono language developer and and survive? Not in today's time. You have to know a little bit of every other languages and know how to blend them with your specialist language.
Cool.
Well, yeah, good, great point, Money. I was thinking here if we can nowadays we can be this single language specialist because one thing is the language that we use as to develop our application. Another thing is the other tools that we use to help us deliver the application or I don't know to make the version control and so on. So and this brings in my mind about they're not just about languages but also a discussion. I might be shifting a little bit the discussion here, but there's a very in hype right now about the low code discussions, right? Oh, now even ChatGPT, that is an AI that we creates the code, and we can we can just use that to write that. So at this point nowadays, when we have some low code platforms or some other kind of tools that that we actually can use to create the right code for us. Can we how this changes things in our day to day? Is still room for being a single language specialist, or do we need to be not just polyglot in languages, but also in different tools that we have available for us? I have a thought here, but I want to hear a little bit from you guys. But first, I just want to say hello for our some people that have been staying here, interacting with us. I want to say hello to Max. Hey, Max, good to see you here. There are also people from LinkedIn, and for people on the LinkedIn, we are in the current platform. We can't see your message directly on our chat, but Pedro is he is following up and updating us here. So I want to say
integration host.
Yes, and continuously integrating here.
Yeah, continuous integration host here.
And yeah, so I want to say hello to Alessandro. He said here a question about there was a time people think Java for desktop and the GUI was heavy. I'm not sure if there's a question here, Alessandro, if you want to detail here for us. would be helpful. I want to say also hello to Eduardo Carvalho. Hey, Eduardo. Good to see you. Seems
Yeah.
like you know Pedro. So great.
Eduardo is my great friend, Biso.
Oh, great. So hello, and yeah, send your questions if you have any question. There, Pedro, Smani, Bruno, they're all very experienced persons here. So yes, please, it would be great to have you into this discussion with us. So
Yeah.
Alessandro, and Alessandro, he asked it here also. What other language do you recommend for backend today? Thinking about jobs.
Really
That's a
good
great
Mm,
question. Yeah.
good question.
I like to answer this kind of question because
Mm.
many times people ask about this. So of course, so we can talk about language in an abstract way, or about the stacks, or about the features the language has. But one feature that a language has is that job opportunities, right? So there are languages that has lots of job opportunities. There are languages that has less job opportunities, right? So it's interesting to say when we get like that red monk graphic we showed the last in our last session here, we see, for example, we have the big three language on the right up part of the graph, that is JavaScript and his siblings like TypeScript, Java, and Python. These three languages, I can say, that has the most job opportunities in the world. But we know that there are lots of others, and many other language has many job opportunities as well, right? When we see this kind of graphs, or kind of uh, 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 kind of a research, we mostly get just only the top 3 or top 5 to talk about. But man, can you imagine how many job opportunities C++ already have today? C++ is a 30 years plus language, right? So can you imagine how many systems there were created using this language? C++. When you talk about all the Microsoft stack using C#, F#, Visual Basic, well, you name it. There are lots of language when you talk about Microsoft. So Microsoft has a huge number of opportunities in the world. So if you ask me what I recommend, it's difficult to say because I am a Java and Python developer. So if you ask me, I would say, oh, come to Java. Java is great. Java has lots of job opportunities. Yes, it has. But if you ask a JavaScript developer, he says, "Oh, come to JavaScript. It has the most biggest number of open source projects in GitHub." Right. So this is a difficult question, I can say. What I answer when I answer these questions, I say to people, "Oh man, are you looking for your first opportunity? If you're looking for your first opportunity, it's important to you to find out which language the companies around your place are using. Oh, the companies around the place are using mostly using Microsoft. Go for it and try to get your job. Because if you can be the best Java developer in the world, if you don't have experience, you won't find any job. Right? And the easiest way to find a job is to look at the local ones, the ones that are around you. So that's what I would say. Look what have in your local place, local
Yeah.
in your city,
Yeah,
etc.
I'll plus one that because I think it's a very old technology habit or technologist's habit. Like, what language should I use or what language should I learn? Instead, what problems are there out there? and how can I solve those problems? And then to solve those problems, what should I learn? Not even what languages should I learn? What should I learn? And then the sub question from those questions will be what languages or what language do I need to learn? Because the same problem can be solved in many different languages. I think both Pedro and Bruno were talking about it. That you could, I mean, you could serve the whole website, which used to happen written in Java by just writing HTML back to the browser, right, and just writing your CSS and JavaScript from your Java code into the browser, right? Or you could do is split it up by making Java do the backend stuff, and then the front end is handling the front end stuff, and the front end talks to the back end, right? Or then you can split it further into a middleware where either you make Java the middleware and something else the back end, or you split that further and decide which technology you use. So you can do this in so many different ways that there is no one shirt fits all solution, right? That's the only technology or language that is used to solve the problem. And in fact, I have already introduced these ideas previously as well. Is there was this engineering manager, Fred George, who used to introduce a new language to solve the same problem with a new set of team members, where he would have mixed skilled developers in their team, where some people would know a functional language, some would know an imperative, some would know declarative, and some would know object oriented. And then he would make them solve the same problem using a language they might know partially or not know at all, and they would learn the language while they're solving the problem. And then he would rotate the teams every few months to start the same problem again with another language. What is he trying to do? He was trying to find out which language is most suited to solve that problem, right? Because it's not a great idea to pick a language and go all the way far into solving the problem and then hit into bottlenecks saying, actually, we cannot do this in so and so language. Like, imagine you had to do all kinds of things in Bash script. It's a great language, it solves a lot of problems, but you can't build a whole lot of things in Bash script, right? So you couldn't like do a whole end-to-end project in Bash script and have success without complaining. So you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, right? You want to hedge.
Mm-hmm.
You want to try a little bit of this, try a little bit of that, try a little bit, so you can pivot when you actually notice and find out that actually that's not working. So that question, which is the best language, is not only subjective but also lacking hedging, lacking the risk management, right, for your own self. Because if you only now, as Pedro was saying and Bruno was saying, if you're the best so and so developer, and Bruno comes up with this example of the hammer specialist and the nail specialist and the carpenter and the tradesperson. So those are the same things. If you only know how to do one thing, and then if anybody calls you and you tell them I can do that and I'm going to apply that, then that's it. You're going to try to use that to solve everything, and you'll not be solving a problem. You may be creating more. So yeah, those questions are not the questions to ask. And the questions to ask are, what kind of problems are out there? How do I solve them? What do I need to know to solve them? What technologies are out there to solve them? Do I even need to learn a language to solve them? Because just like Hugo was mentioning, maybe there's a tool available already, and maybe it's a low-code tool. All I do is take the tool, install it, configure it a little bit, and the problem is solved, right? You don't need to. And then, of course, when the problem evolves, then you decide whether the same tool is suitable. So you can evolve your skills and technologies and the knowledge of problem solving, and learn new things and solve the same problem and solve it better, and by evolving those things, as opposed to sticking and putting all your eggs in one basket and then just being like that one specialist who can only do that one thing.
Cool, really cool. And I'm seeing here on the chat, and I just see a message. Good evening from Giovanna Rodriguez. Hey, Giovanna, good to see you here. Giovanna have been a new member here that have been helping us on the backstages. So great to see you here, Giovanna. You're very welcome. And yeah, if you have any questions, please paste here. We can also answer. And also Marlon BBA. Hey, Marlon, good night. And there are also Gabriel Nascimento. Hey, Gabriel Nascimento, just want to say hello to you. And please, all of you, if you have any questions, here is a place that you can have great answers from great professionals. So yeah, share with us what you have about your questions about being specialist polyglot or anything else that you are struggling around that. Pedro said a very interesting thing. Yeah, go ahead,
Yeah, just
Bruno.
really quick on my LinkedIn account. There's Fernando. So hey, Fernando, how you doing? So he says, "Hi guys, hope everyone's doing well." And then he makes a comment here. He says, "I totally agree with Bruno in his speaking right now. Even though I appreciate learning many languages, I need to learn deep at least one language to be competitive with the others, right? And the reason I mention is that it's not possible for a junior to learn so many things at the same time, right? They would get lost."
Exactly.
Yeah, very true, right? You can't really start by experimenting. When you're just beginning, right? There's so many things to learn, so many different concepts, and if you are trying to learn many languages at the same time, right? No, I don't. I think it is possible for someone that's just starting to have, to know a little bit about different languages, right? Especially because you have to understand a little bit to see which one you want to do. By the way, right? But for you to get deeper, and when you're just starting, there's so many concepts. Because here's the thing: software development is not only about you writing the code, right? It's about so many other things, right? It's about making a build and packaging the application and doing tasks and using containers and use the cloud and APIs and all that, right? So sometimes the language itself is just a small part of that, right? Actually, the libraries they're going to use, each language has different libraries, right? So all of these, for you to learn all of these at the same time for multiple different languages, for multiple different paradigms, it's just too much, man. And so you can't do this, especially as a junior, for sure.
No, absolutely. Yeah, you need to be practical as well, and not like if somebody says, "Yeah, you got to learn all the different languages because you want to become a polyglot developer," then not on your first year of your journey, right? Yeah. I mean, nobody. I mean, I was interested in many different things, but I still stuck to one thing in my first year in my journey. Had I not done that, then I would have been not knowing in many things and struggling, right? But eventually, when you settle down, then you can start, flexing your different uh, frets of the guitar, if we take that as an example. And then you when you have more confidence, then that you have the stability of one language, then on the back of that you build another thing, that where you use a second language and you build something in your third language, and so on and so forth.
Exactly. Yeah, it's exactly. We need to, when we are working, is that when we are learning all these tools, right? So for example, and most of the time you will learn what the tools or the language you have opportunity to work with. If you have an opportunity, if you have a Java developer opportunity, you're gonna learn Java. If you have a JavaScript developer opportunity, you're gonna learn JavaScript. And during your career, you're gonna change these things. It's much harder if you say, "Oh, now I'm gonna be a full stack developer" at the beginning. I say, "Okay, you can be a full stack developer, but you can imagine you need to learn JavaScript, HTML, CSS, and then you go to backend. Let's say in the backend you have JavaScript, TypeScript, SQL. Sometimes you need to know like Bash because you need to run everything, you put everything in the system. Man, just on this small stuff here, we're talking about 7 different languages. People are gonna say, "Pedro, but the HTML is not a language." Oh, I will not enter in this discussion.
CSS is not a language.
That's not a language. Oh, CSS is a language. And
Yes.
so
HTML might be a little bit, but CSS is less, right?
Yes, it is a language. But what I say, the problem here is, you can say 7 languages here. So you only gonna know this after some time. You need to work You are working 40 hours a week with these tools, and eventually you're gonna get it, right? But even so, to get deeper, you're gonna choose something to get deeper, right? Until today, I don't get deeper on SQL. I have lots of years of experience, but I never had opportunity to be, oh, I will work on with SQL in a deeper level. It's never occurred in my career, you know? And you say, oh, you know SQL deeper? No, I don't. You can learn about, yeah, I can. I'm still in the career, so if in some moments I started like working as data engineer, for example, I will be. I will work with SQL in deeper level, you know.
Right.
So that's what I think. I think we need to get to use the opportunities we have to learn all the stuff we can learn, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, well, I could open. I want to open another point. Think here is that how is it good to learn different language, because different language has different features. I don't know if you want to enter in this discussion here.
Yeah, I think that's a good one as well, and that actually aligns with what Bruno was talking about. Why learn different languages in the beginning or at certain stage of your development career? But I wanted to add a couple more points to what you just said, Pedro. Is one thing is that you mentioned 6 and 7, but you have not even started to talk about, not that you didn't talk about deploying that and then maintaining that, and for which you still need to know things, right? They need not be necessary languages, they mean be techniques, then and they could be a combination of things, right? And it's a whole cycle. It's not like you developed it and it's finished. You got to maintain it. It's a whole cycle. It comes back with bugs, with more feature requirements, and the cycle just keeps going on and on and on. And so there are many more things that come in the cycle than just knowing this 5 or 6 languages. And yeah, there's always these surprises, right? So that is that one thing. The second thing is that, and it's going back to that same thing, is not to ask what languages to learn, but what kind of a, slightly more specific could be, what kind of a project can I be involved in that will give me the maximum or optimal, not maximum, the optimal exposure that is good for my current situation, right? Or that is good for my goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is very important question, because this is what I did almost 15 years ago. I asked this question myself, and I also heard from other people: join an open source project. Why? Because an open source project, it might sound simple, and yeah, open source is free, and yeah, it's not. It's a very serious thing. When you join an open source project, you learn all the way from write nice readme files, reading messages, communication, watching the mailing list, picking up issues, raising issues, uh, reviewing code, collaborating with other developers. And then that's not it. The next thing is to monitor the CI/CD systems, right? To build stuff and to make sure the builds work and the tests don't fail. And then pair program with other people, and read people's tests, and validate tests, and run coverage reports, and read them, and raise the issues again. So the whole cycle that you would normally learn at a workplace, or do at a workplace, and learn and do at a workplace, and learn from doing it at a workplace, you're already getting exposure to by becoming part of an open source project. And then there also comes all those things Pedro just mentioned and Bruno mentioned earlier about the multiple languages and the multiple things you'll come across, because every open source project will have its own stack of technologies, right? So and it's also free and open and flexible to propose a technology that's better than the other, provided you have a strong enough valid point, and that everybody has got a buy-in, and it goes for it. So that's the kind of question you want to ask and answer, and those are the kind of activities you want to do, instead of trying to focus when you're new to something and you want to learn and get to the next level in your career, instead of just trying to focus on what is the best language to learn. Rather, what is the best open source project to be part of for my current situation, to take my current situation to the next level, depending on what my goals are, right? Again, all of this is subjective. So the best is not a best written by billboards or even by the ranking websites. The best is subjective to so many parameters that is specific to you, to yourself.
And I think, Mani, that this is a very interesting point, right? Because we are all different developers. We all have different stories. We all have different experiences, and I think that it's one of the things that we got to do is that find our space, find our place, right? One of the things that Yara always talks about on TDC, on the Developers Conference, is about actually finding that space where you fit, right? And I think this, when you talk about all the open source projects, in all the languages, so I think that discussion is very unique to each one of us, right? Because sometimes you have different expertise, right? So when I joined Sun, I was going to run Solaris, man. I was a Sun guy, right? So everything I was thinking about doing it was Solaris with C, C++, and Bash. Not even Bash, right? It was like, I don't even know what shell was like Z shell or something like this, right? So and then Java came along, right? So that was an opportunity, right? For me at that moment, when I started using Java, for example, everyone was destroying Java, right? Because Java is slow, no one uses all these kind of things. But it was an opportunity for me, right? To have an opportunity. Java could have gone nowhere, right, when it first started. But for me, it was an opportunity to work with people inside Sun and meet people and have an open and do interesting things and talk about interesting things. So, I was lucky, right? Totally lucky to be there in the right place, right? At the right time. But same thing that everyone here has, right? So you might say, oh, yes, I want to be a Java developer. But then there's this very cool project that someone in your family is running JavaScript and they invite you to participate. Well, that's pretty awesome, right? I was talking to, a mentor of mine, Ryan. He helps me out with some of the marketing things that I do. And, and he is a C++ developer, and he develops games, right, on C++. And I think that, if you are interested in games and you start working with Ryan, for example, man, that's a C++ project, right? And I don't care if you prefer Java. I don't care if Java is the most used language for other things, right? On that particular project, that one project that you have access to, that your friend is participating, that someone invited you to, that project that you can actually put your hands on, that project is in whatever language. So that's a good opportunity for you. Now, when you go the step further, right, that what Mani's talking about, that is, you go do open source, then you can actually choose the project and the language and everything, because there's open source projects in every single language that you can imagine, right? But again, I always tell the story of Otavio, right? When Otavio started, I met Otavio when he was a student at university, right? And so great to see him, how much he has grown to this day. But, Otavio, I met him because the first thing that he wanted as a university student, he wanted to work with Linux, right? And C and C++, right? So he joined the Linux kernel mailing list, right? As a newbie, and he started asking questions on the Linux kernel mailing list, right? So, very soon they kick him out there, right? Because, why are you asking newbie questions about C and C++ in the kernel mailing list, right? That's not the place, right? So they kick him out. So, and then he went on and he said, okay, so what else can I do? So he joined the Java VM mailing list, right? And he started asking newbie questions about Java, right? And for some reason, someone in the Java mailing list started helping him out to learn Java, right? So it was not the place either, right? But someone helping him out. So, so Otavio became an awesome Java developer and not an awesome C developer, right? Because that was the opportunity he had. That was the person he met. Maybe he mastered on the kernel main list on the day there's this guy that was not, that was tired and was low patience, and the guy didn't like it. And on the other hand, maybe he mastered the Java main list on the day there was someone very helpful that was there and say, yeah, let me go help this guy, right? So, we don't know exactly why things happen, right? But once something happens with you, man, get the chance, right? So my vision is that, if you're curious enough, right, and you're looking for lots of places at the same time, you increase your chance of something happen to you. But once something happens, take the chance, right? There has to be a moment where you stop throwing your net, right? Because something happened, there is a direction that you should go, and go to that direction, right? Even if it's just for a while. Things can change. You can rethink things later. You can start again. You can do other languages. Don't be so afraid of, man, I have to make the best decision in my life, otherwise I'm going to lose. That's not even true, right? Software development and technology changes so fast that you might catch many different waves, right? You don't need to wait for the best wave ever, because you might just catch wave after wave after wave, because there's so many things going on, right? So go experiment. Feel free to try things out. Feel free to talk with people. Feel free, to see something that you say, man, that thing, I really want to do it, and I'm going to do it more just because it's so fun right now.
Cool. I wanted to add one thing that you really important and you brought it up. So I said earlier, we asked the question that is specific to our goal and our circumstance. But also, what you just added here is so important. You got to keep trying to find the environment where you can execute that goal and take advantage that you can improve your circumstance from the level you are at to the next level. And hence, like what you mentioned, like one community to another community, there's a big difference, right? I didn't want to say which community is better, but we all know that the open source community is mostly very altruistic in nature. They're always helping. That's why it's open source, right? They want people to come and contribute. And so you're nice to them, they're nice to you, and there's a happy family there, and you learn and you grow. And it's been the result for me as well. I'm sure you know my background, Bruno. 13 plus years I've started my open source endeavors, and I haven't looked back since then. It's because when you work and come in a community like that, I mean, this whole event here that we're doing just now is indirectly related to me becoming and coming into the open source community and being active, right? So basically, lifting myself to the next level, but also finding the right environment and the right people to do all of these, like-minded people to do all of these things. And so to add to what I had said earlier, I think what you just pointed out about trying and taking the opportunity, but also when you find the environment, stick to it, be there. When you have don't keep throwing nets and don't keep looking for big waves. Keep riding the small waves, because that will lead you to the environment that you need to be in. And those are more stable than trying to look for a big wave, and a big wave may not come. But a lot of small waves will lead you to where you need to be.
And one thing, Manny, we don't even know what the big wave is, right? Because
Exactly.
when you catch a wave, sometimes it's very small, right? So it can grow really big, and we don't know, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I know. As I said before, Java could be totally a flop, right? Like so many other things that Sun did was a flop at the time, right? And I have friends of mine that were at Sun with me, and they decided to do one thing. I decided to do two other things. They both could have been great. They both could have failed, right? So I was lucky, right? So yeah, and I think there's a saying that says, the more I try, the luckier I get, right? And that's the thing. Right? So it's not that we can't just rely on being lucky, right? We have to try, and then the more we try, the higher chance that we have to be lucky at some point.
Yeah, it's a numbers game as well, right? If you look at it from another point of view. Yeah, the more you try, the more you're improving your chances, as long as you're not trying the same people in the same situation every time, because then you'll actually bother those people. But it has to be different things that you need to try, and then settle on what you try, right? Don't keep trying and then keep trying, and then when you found something that you can settle, you still keep trying somewhere else, then you won't settle, right?
And
I think Andre with that,
Andre says here that you don't know until it's too late to surf it. That's true too. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. But although that is true, it is also false, right? Think about it. How many people are surfing the Java wave, right? And so,
today.
and I mean, there's how many making lots of money as a Java developer, right? How many people are starting a Java development today and they're still going to make, huge amount of money, going to have lots of success in their lives, right? I've got, there are people, actually the good example is Otavio, right? I mean, when Otavio started, the Java wave had already gone, right? And he's just kind of building his new wave too, right? So it's like, yeah, I do understand what you're saying, Andres. That might be true for something that shows up and disappears really fast, right? But things that stick around for a long time, yeah, there's always a new people coming in and new things going on and all that.
Well, great things. But before we go further here and miss the question from Giovanna, I just want to share to you guys that I shared in the chat about the RagMonk language rankings that we have that you can use as a reference here. And Giovanna made a very interesting question here regarding to that, and I want to hear from you guys. Is it possible that language like JavaScript, which is the first place on the RedMonk ranking, becomes saturated when so many people work with this language? What do you think about that? Would some language, because of popularity, become saturated at some point?
Well, it depends what you define a saturation as, right? So the way our industry works is a constant flux of demand and supply and hype, right? The hype word is important here, and community. So if there's a community that's producing cool stuff and they like that culture of the way they produce, right? Some communities are highly test driven and they'll produce high quality software, so they won't produce a lot of it. But then there are ones that will put together things really quickly, and if it's okay, it's not fully tested and there are broken parts in it, but there are some parts of it that work. But a lot of them will produce all those and they'll accept each other's work with less criticism and less criticality and testing, and those communities will grow quickly with a lot of these things floating around. And if there are lots of those people doing that, and suddenly the market and the industry starts adapting one or two things or more things around that, then there is a lot of demand and supply right there met. So the saturation doesn't happen as quickly for those languages because the hype is also riding quickly with them. So they're expanding quite quickly. And only after some time, you'll notice that, oh, there are so many of these components. They almost look the same. They have similar names and do the same thing. Which one do I use? So that's when you hit the saturation point. But it doesn't stop, because the way our industry works is if you can put together something and it delivers an end result and it's good enough, and then lots of people will start doing that, right? And more, even people who are using the other trends and other streams will also do this because it gives quick results, right? You want to go to market quickly. What brings you to market quickly? Even though it's not fully robust and reliable, but you can go to market quickly. So when a lot of these things happen, it does not leave too much room for saturation. Right? Because there's always demand and supply trying to create more and more demand and more requirements. Like, if you've solved this problem, then you solve another problem and another problem. So there's the problem space is constantly expanding. So the solution space is not catching up as quickly. So the saturation cannot happen. Yes, you will meet a lot of developers who do the same thing, right? But at the same time, there is a demand for a lot of those developers because they also do other things. They're not just doing that thing. So it's a hard question to really answer, to say it'll get saturated, and there's too many people in here, and suddenly because of the saturation something else has dropped. No. In our industry, the more you have those kinds of people, there'll be more people who want those kinds of people. I don't know if that's making sense, but it's just how it's work, how I've seen it work. So that's the best way I could answer it. But maybe the three of you can give it a little bit other twist and come with views from another angle. Pedro wants to say something. I see his finger go up.
Yeah. Yeah. What I would say on that, I don't remember any time that we like get saturated. like a language gets saturated or a stack gets saturated on can I say? I understand that she's saying uh, uh, there are lots of developers that all developer has no jobs anymore. No, I never seen a moment like that. What I have seen is what you said, Money, in the beginning. There are offer and demand, right? And then sometimes there are higher demand, sometimes there are higher offer, and sometimes people just is spread like, oh, I'm a JavaScript developer, but now I start doing another stuff, and then I enter in another type of job opportunity, that is not exactly, oh, JavaScript web development. No, it's maybe JavaScript backend developer, uh, maybe gaming developer, maybe I don't know, another stuff, right? And then the developers gets spread on some time. But even though, like, for this mainstream language, I never heard about this kind of saturation. So you're like, oh, I'm Java JavaScript developer. There is no job opportunity anywhere for me. I don't see this.
Yeah, and I think this whole discussion comes around, yes, I think you could just kind of be a like a standard developer. So I'm just a Java developer, and I'm not getting the most amazing positions because there's so many of Java developers out there, or so many JavaScript developers. But the reality is that it has nothing to do with the market, right? As those guys mentioned already, right? So it's not that the market is saturated, right? Is that you position yourself as just a Java developer, right? And so you don't have any differentiation, right? So you are just, because commoditization happens when I can just exchange one thing for the next, right? So, if I have a pen that writes on the board, right, maybe I can just buy another pen that writes on the board, and I can just exchange that, right? But that's not a developer, unless you position yourself as just a developer that can be just exchanged by any other developer. It's a very bad position to be in. I think you can always position yourself as something special, right? There's something that you do that is unique, whatever that is, right? So yeah, maybe I'm a Java developer that knows JavaScript, right? Or I'm a JavaScript developer that also knows COBOL, right? I don't know. You can have things that are unique to you, right? That you know better, or that you are, that your experience fits more. And then the moment that you position yourself like this, then, immediately people that need you are going to look for you, right? And so now you're more rare case because very few people are like you. And so you actually earn a higher price, right? And so I think that a lot of this is not about the markets. It's about, who you are. And we see this all the time, right? We see especially on crisis, right? So when there's a crisis, and there's not a lot of investments and everything, the companies that continue to innovate, the companies that continue to talk to their audience, the companies that continue to show up, those are the companies that come out of the crisis much better, right? The companies that just kind of disappear and they don't differentiate, they don't show anything different, then those companies completely disappear, right? And I think that can happen, right? I don't think the markets get saturated, but I think you can get yourself in a corner that there's nothing else for you to do, right? And we see this all the time, right? We see this, for example, in technology, they're disappearing. For example, when the developer continues just to work on that technology, they doesn't do other things. There is a possibility. So I remember, for example, there's a big surge right now in the value of COBOL developers, right? Because there's so few of them that the guys that know can make a lot of money, right? So the moment, but you can't be waiting for that situation, right? You can't be waiting first doing like this. You have to put yourself in the best position possible, right? And I think that this also has a little bit to do with the demand, right? So the more demand of developers exists in that thing, the lower the price, let's say, right? Because there's lots, right? But at the same time, the moment that there's lots and the demand is lower, then the value comes down, and so people start moving to other things, right? Because they want to grow, they want to make more money, and so there's less developers now on that technology, right? And then suddenly, the price goes up again. Right? So I think that's also there's a huge dynamics that we don't control, by the way, right? You can't control. Oh, everyone stop learning Java because I need more money, right? We don't control that. But we control ourselves, right? We control what we know. We control how we position our markets, right? So what I would think, Giovanna, is instead of you being worried about the market, think about how you position yourself, because I think that makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head with the question, and you touched that part about it's more where you drive as opposed to you feeling that the market is saturated, right? So and actually that's a good indicator, right? It could also mean that you now need to learn more stuff, widen your horizons, and broaden your skill sets, as opposed to just staying within that, because you could do a lot of different things in that one language stack, right? Not just writing database applications, not just writing APIs, but there are other angles and aspects to that technology. So start exploring what are those angles and aspects, and then you'll stumble into things you'll be positively surprised. Hugo, you posted something and you took it away because I was commenting on something. Please put it back.
Just want to add this Andres comments. When I was studying in university, I thought software industry was going to be saturated soon, 25 years ago. And I think many people thought that. And we have a question from Fair Java here. One question. I know that for the market, what really matters is the business and not the technology. But where are opportunities to work with Jakarta E and Microprovide? 90% seems to be Spring projects.
98, right?
98.
No, it is 90%, but Bruno's saying 98.
Okay. I thought that I read wrong.
No, it is 90%.
I thought I was reading 98, but yeah, but no. So yeah, and again, right? So if everyone is in one technology, there's two options for you, right? You can be on that technology too because everyone is there, right? Or you can be the person on the other technology and be a specialist on that, right? And then go after the market. Here's an interesting thing that I always like to think about, right? Is that, it does it really matter how many opportunities exist? All you need is one good opportunity, one amazing opportunity, right? So, so sometimes is, it's the same thing I was talking before, right? So it's about how you position yourself. Now, here's the thing for Java that I think is more important than everything else, right? I understand what you're saying, that 90% of opportunities are with X technology or whatever, right? But here's the worst problem, man. 75% of the opportunities are in what we call the hidden job markets. They are invisible. You don't even see them, right? So, so imagine that you're right, that 90% of the opportunities are in the technology that you're not interested in, right? But 75% of all the opportunities you don't even see. So the chance that you see the one opportunity that exists, that it's both visible and on the technology that you're looking for, it's really small, right? So maybe you're looking at it and say, man, I don't find any Jakarta E opportunities, but maybe they exist and lots of them, but they are hidden. You don't see them. So, that's why, again, go back to the positions. You don't, if you're looking for a job, if you're looking for a position, it's already harder, right? You have to position yourself in the market in a way that the positions look for you. Because when the positions look for you, what happens is that it doesn't matter where they are, because you might not see them, but they're going to find you because they need you, right? And that's that's one thing I was telling. I just run a workshop this past Saturday called the Reputation Workshop, and the thing that we're discussing there was, if you really want to be better than 99% of developers, you got to do what 99% of developers don't do, right? And I think that one thing that most people don't do is exactly that: position yourself in the market, right, in a way that the market has clarity on who you are, what you do, what are the good things that you do, what problems do you solve, right? So the more you do that, the more the amazing position will find you. And then you're going to find out that the least important thing is the exact technology, right? Because as you said, right, companies are interested about the business. They're interested about solving problems, right? So yeah, so that's, I think that I understand the question, but I think there's a much more complicated question there, is why you are missing out on 75% of the opportunities. And that is scary, and let me tell you this, the research that says 75%, right, is overall, right? Overall in all markets, in everything, right? Not only technology, not only, right? Overall, it's 75%. But think about the most amazing opportunities. For the most amazing opportunities, the one that you want for Java, now you want an opportunity that's on the technology that you want. It's very challenging. It's a remote work. Is well paid. For those opportunities, man, there's no research, right? But I would say that it's like 90%, maybe 95%, right? And the reason is very simple. Overall, the market, why 75% of the options are, because, I have a job. The first thing that I do is I don't publish the job, right? The first thing I do, I call Money. Hey, Money, do you know someone that can work on this, right? And Money say, yeah, man, Hugo is a good guy. He's definitely going to allow it. So I call Hugo and I say, hey, Hugo, I have this opportunity here. Would you like to do it? If Hugo says yes, the job doesn't exist. If Hugo says no, maybe Hugo say, no, I'm not interested, but maybe Pedro is. So I call Pedro. If Pedro says yes, the job doesn't exist, right? So that's why 75% of the jobs are in the hidden job market. But here's the problem. Let's say it's a bad job, right? It's not very interesting. It's legacy technology, doesn't pay very well, or is on-premise, not remote, whatever. It's a bad job for some reason. I call Money. Money say, yeah, I'm not interested. How about you call Hugo? So I call Hugo. Hugo say, nah, man, no, I'm in a better job than this. Call Pedro. I call Pedro, and Pedro say, that's a bad job, man. I don't want. So that job goes to the market, right? But what if it's an awesome job? If it's an awesome job, I call Money. Money say, yeah, sure. Right?
I don't know Pedro. I don't know Hugo. It's a great job.
Exactly.
Pedro and Hugo don't exist in my telephone book.
Exactly.
Give it to
me. So what happens is, if the job is awesome, it gets filled immediately, right? On the hidden job market, it never shows up. So for the awesome jobs, guys, 95% of them don't show up, right? So, if you're looking for a job, man, you're already looking for only 25% of the opportunities, and only for the bad ones. That's so scary. Think about it. Scary, man. You should run to the hills just by learning this, right?
So there are a couple of things that are coming out of it. One is, of all the four of us here, Bruno is the one who knows about the 75% hidden jobs, because I don't. So if you're looking for a job, ring Bruno. He might have some solution, because otherwise he's going to ring us and we might get one of those awesome jobs. Yeah. The second thing here is that whoever was looking for those specific technologies and looking for opportunities and were disappointed that it's such, certain roles are not available for that person, I would suggest to join mailing lists of these technologies, and or wherever these technologies are used in certain projects, which is also sometimes easy to find, join those projects that interest you, of course. because these are the places where I know this from fact, for at least those two technologies, I know a lot of value added services companies are actually embedded in those mailing lists, embedded in those projects, because that's where they get their talent from to build their own services, right? And then because they're value added services company and they're built on these open source projects, they're bound to be better than the other ones that are closed sourced and are not working in that same ecosystem and not working in the same work culture and environment, right? So you already made it easier by naming those technologies. Now go and find the mailing list and projects, open source projects, maybe some are closed source projects, but find them and become part of them and become embedded in them and learn how those technologies are being used. And sooner or later, somebody will swap you in, because when you're working on those open source projects, a lot of value added services are actually also built around those open source projects, and they will hire you, right?
They
So
will.
now that's the hidden opportunities that Bruno didn't mention, but I'm telling you that now.
Yeah,
And Bruno is
that's exactly what they
confirming,
are.
which means that exists.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are, right? That's how you find them. And by the way, that's not only on technology, right? Any place where there is a community, that's going to happen, right?
Exactly.
So so for example, if you love games, right, and you really want to work on games, be part of the gaming community, right? Because that's where they're going to find the people, right? So if you love Lego, right? Oh no, I can never be well paid by being a Lego guy. Yes, you can, right? So Lego has a community where you can build things, and if you if you're visible enough in that community, that's the people that Lego hires for their for their company, right? So it's always like this, guys. Participate in the community, show up, see, and I think on software is great because we have so many open source software out there. So yeah, money, that's a much better place to look for than just pinging me.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. On second thought, yes. Look over there. Don't ping Bruno. He's got better things to do.
Cool. And yeah, and I have to be the bad guy here and tell you guys that we are reaching the end of our session today. But it was really interesting. Those tips was gold if you were watching here, and you should share to your friends, anyone that wants to grow in career and find those great jobs, those hidden jobs. It's a gem, and we are now we have to keep our tradition, right, and share our books of the session. So yeah, I can start today, and we can go through with the flow. Well, for today's one thing that I couldn't mention because we had so much interesting topics and ideas during the session is not just to go after understand what you want to solve and position yourself, but also start understanding the problem that you want to solve. So not just the tool, the business that you are solving. It's very important to understand. So of course, if you are it is your first job, that's not the moment. But if you are already experienced developer, understand the business is a great thing to start looking to grow and start doing important decisions in your team. So that's one tip. And for that, I would like to share a book that I like a lot to read. That is the Phoenix Project. That tells a little bit about the day to day of an IT company challenges. So that's my suggestion for today. If you want to read a light novel and don't want to go so deep into some technology, that's a great reading that I recommend. So who's the next?
I'll go next. I've got the last time when you signed up, you had 7 languages in complement that says 7 databases in 7 weeks, which is not languages but 7 technologies, which is kind of also let's say um, aligning quite well with the two sessions we've had, the last two sessions on specialism, specialism and generalism and polyglot development and multiple languages and multiple technologies. So I would recommend reading both those, or at least going through both of them out of interest to see what they have to offer and why you're doing that. Because when you are exposing yourself to multiple technologies like this or multiple languages, you're actually stretching and building muscle memory to understand different technologies and different concepts. And then you're sometimes able to do, you will notice, able to do your core specialist language that you're are good at, have been doing for a long time, better, because then you get to see things in a better light when you've got exposed to the other aspects of other languages. So that's why my recommendation to have a look at these 7 databases and 7 languages books and expose yourself to it.
Okay. Well, let me continue. I'd like to send here, to suggest here, the Programming in Scala book. Programming in Scala is the book from the Martin Odersky, the creator of Scala. And I like this book because, well, for me, Scala was one of the languages that helped me to learn much more about language. Scala is a very, very interesting language. When they say scalable language, it's something that I don't see. Maybe Lua is a language similar, but in the trend languages, I don't see it like this, when you can create the language the way you need it. So it's a fantastic language, I can say. It's lost some traction, but it still has a niche to work, and it's awesome to learn because it helped me to be a better Java developer, and now a better developer in any language that I work. So I suggest it. It's a good book.
Let me to go. All right.
Cool. Yes, you're the one left, Bruno.
Okay, so yeah, I thought it's still you missing money, but so one thing I was trying to do here, I had an awesome experience at university where we had this class where we had to build interpreters for different programming language, right? So it was not interpreter for Java or C or anything like this. It was an interpreter for a simple structured language, and then a simple object-oriented language, and then a simple functional language. So we had to build an interpreter for each one of those. So I've been trying here to actually find the book that we use it for that, and I think I failed, but along the process, I found this, like a similar one that's crafting interpreters, right? So I'm going to suggest that one here. It's not exactly the book I wanted to suggest, but that one, it's a let me put it here so you can put there, right? So it's called Crafting Interpreters, is right here. And so that book, oh, actually I had another book there, right? But okay, I'll forget about that book, this book, because I wanted to talk about the programming language here. I thought it was better, right? So sorry, Manny, but
no, it's okay, go ahead.
Yeah, so Crafting Interpreters, it's a great book about building one interpreter, right? So it's gonna walk you through all the process of building one interpreter for one program, like a simple scripting language, but it will go over everything that you need to know about different programming languages, how they're created, how they work, what's behind that. Because really, I think that this understanding of how programming language is done, it's very, very important for you to really for you to really go deep into become a better software developer, right? Because look, guys, that's what we work with, right? So we need to understand how compilers work, how interpreters work, right? We need to understand how memory works. We need to understand all that. And so going through this exercises, right, and actually implementing that by reading a book that's going to walk you through all the steps, we really get you, to understand how all those things work and how all those things connect to each other. And I think that, for you to be a polyglot developer, and since we're already talking here how important it is for you to know multiple languages, knowing the basics, right, and what's behind the scenes of every single programming language, that's going to be awesome for you.
Great, cool. So yeah, so I want to thank everyone here, especially Bruno, Mani, and Pedro. I love the discussion today. We had a lot, and I love the audience also that sent a lot of questions for us. So that's it. We love to answer your questions. So keep sending us questions if you have any suggestion about the topic. Also, we'll be happy to hear from you. And yeah, today that's it for today. Thanks a lot, everyone. See you on the next session. Bye bye.
Thank you, guys.
See you. Bye bye.
Yeah, bye bye.